Good afternoon and welcome back to this continuation of the public meeting number 16 of today, Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. The next person on the speakers list is MP Chanel Brownbill. MP Brownbill, you have the floor. Can't see him. Put it.
Yep.
No.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the various ministers. Good afternoon to my colleagues and to the people of Sint Maarten who's viewing around the world. Good afternoon, one and all. Mr. Chairman, I have a key question today, and it's a general question, so it's not even for a minister. It's a question of who can do the job. That's the question. And who will do the job? And why I ask that question is because everybody could sit and criticize from the outside. But when you're on the inside, it's a whole different ballgame. You have a lot of work to do. It's almost like you're watching a sports, or you're watching boxing, or you're watching basketball, and you're just criticizing when somebody miss a shot, or somebody make a wrong turn, somebody do something wrong. You always okay, well, you know, you should have do this, or you could have do this, or you would have do this. But if you don't decide to do nothing, nothing happens. So today I will applaud all the ministers for this budget, including Minister Aaron as Minister of Finance. I will give everybody the applaud today because it's not easy. You know, I've been in this game for about maybe 6 years, and I always tackle this game realistically. So I'm not a fluff guy. You know, I would not come and give fluff or fool the people of Sint Maarten or put a twist to something which is part of the game, but it's just not in me. So I'd rather observe, sit back, and make sense out of the whole situation. So when it comes to all the ministries, yeah, you gotta ask the question, who can and who will do the work? Because a lot of people could sit from the outside and criticize, and today if they take the portfolio, they'll do worse. They'll do worse. You know, a lot of people could sit, point the finger, shoot, but it's blank shots because they will do worse. So I applaud for seeing a balanced budget after Hurricane Irma, after COVID, after all of the crisis situations we've been through. I must say, I applaud them. You know, and now I realize I made a good choice coming back only 1 year after the suspension of the other MP of passing the last budget. Because when I came back, it was a lot of tension in the room. An illegal budget, this, that, you know, different stuff, which everybody have their own rights to feel how they feel about the budget. So I'm not even throwing shots at no direction. I'm just saying, me as a person, how I observe everything, it was a lot of tension, and it was a lot of personal gain. And I wanted to put country first, pass a budget, people have to get paid, people have children to take care of, school fees to pay. So my whole overview of this budget is balanced. I am supporting it 100%, and we need to move the country forward. And at the end of the day, you know, I applaud also MP Bryson for his presentation today. And certain things he said make a lot of sense. You know, sometimes you want to, okay, say if a government fall, let's say. Now what? That's what I'm asking now. Now what? A lot of people even ain't ready to go to election. So now what? So we're going to just laugh and, okay, we mash it up. So that's just disruption. Nobody's ready for election. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Chanel Brownbill. The next person on the list is MP William Marlin. MP Marlin, you have the floor, and you may sit and talk.
Now I'm on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A hearty good afternoon to you, to colleagues, to the ministers here present, viewers and listeners, wherever you are. Mr. Chairman, in this opening round, because of several circumstances, I would be rather brief. I could go and ask a repeat of many questions that have been asked, but as one of those supporting the government, I am here more today to lend my support to government in private discussions with several ministers. I have given them some advice. I have admonished them on certain things that I think needs to be done, but I'm not necessarily, after hearing the amount of questions that were asked in the Central Committee and even here today, during not only today, but ever since the public debate has started, there have been a good bit of questions asked. But in the end, Mr. Chairman, we can ask 1,001 questions. Some of it is simply to keep the government busy from what we see. Others is just here to, like the speaker before me said, basically to just criticize the government, show your opposition to the government. Some would even go as far as to tell you, I was part of it and I left, and probably need to justify to some people why they have left. And then they go, as they say in Papiamento, pikipiu. They're looking for something to justify why they have left. And then you stumble on an issue like, oh, the government didn't sufficiently embrace a motion that spoke out on decolonization. Mr. Chairman, one of the things, though, that I would say in that context is that for too long, we continue to beat up on each other, some of us, every opportunity that you get. Even the general public at times would criticize any government for that matter because of things they feel we should have done better. Why can't we balance the budget? Why can't we fix the prison? Why can't we fix education? Why can't we fix our infrastructure? Why is our hospital too small? Why do we have to send people to Colombia or to Panama? Why? But like my colleague sitting next to me here, MP George Pontiflet said earlier this morning, he spoke about our education that is not really ours, that is not geared towards us. And as an educator myself for many years, I have done my little best to try to sensitize our students and our people at large. And even when I was teaching at a teacher's training school, there I thought I can probably influence teachers. So it's better to influence 20, 30 students who are becoming teachers than to stand you alone before a classroom and there may be no continuity. Mr. Chairman, there are people who, whenever you talk about colonialism and or slavery, they would like try to hush you up. And it's like, you going there again? Why can't you people forget it? Why can't you stop thinking about these things and move on? I even heard members of parliament in here saying, why we can't stop blaming the Dutch. Don't blame the Dutch. Blame our governments of the past and blame us, because it's we who are responsible for the prison. It's we who are responsible. It's we who are responsible. But Mr. Chairman, it's over a year ago, I think it was, that I spoke about how did we get here? How did we get here? Why are we where we are? And like my MP friend here, George Pantaflet, would often speak about reparation. Mr. Chairman, reparation isn't just a matter of give us 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 100 million, give us 10 million a year, give us 5 million a year. No, more importantly is that we ourselves, firstly, got to know who we are and why we are the way we are and why we believe that this one or that one is greater than we are, because we were taught from kindergarten not even to speak our own language, but to speak another man's language. Today, as Vice Chair of Parliament, I went, maybe one would say purposely, to witness the remembrance of the signing of the Treaty of Concordia. But like I spoke once about it in terms of whose treaty is it? It's not ours. It's not a treaty between us and our brothers and sisters on the French side. It's a treaty of the former slave masters, the former colonizers who brought our ancestors here as slaves, who colonized these countries, and when they had enough of fighting between them, they made a treaty for them, like them, to suit their needs, not taking us into account. And yes, I believe, like the Prime Minister says, it is noteworthy to celebrate for us now, turn it into ours, because jump high, jump low, it is us, the people of here, who have been living peacefully side by side for all these years. And the cooperation that has come out of the peaceful coexistence over the years is worth observing, taking stock of where we are in this relationship, because there are not too many, if any more, countries in the world of our size that is divided into two different countries. And just like Russia and Ukraine, you would hear them say at times, yes, they're one people, they're one family. Some families in Russia have families in Ukraine and vice versa. So do we have families on one side, and those from the other side have families on this side. But if we don't realize that when we criticize our governments, that we are missing the point. Because why is it that we have all these problems in managing our product, managing our respective responsibilities? It's because of what they say in Dutch, the startpositie, our starting point. Where did we start from? What it is we inherited. We inherited an empty bag. It's like you had rich parents, and when they died, in this case, when they left you with nothing, with no education, with no identity, with no self-respect to some extent. with nothing. The land, and that was it. And not even all of it was left to you, because some of them still stuck around and were hoping to still benefit from their presence here. And we built and built and built and built to the extent of where we have gotten here. But if we want to believe that because 12 years ago we voted for, or we became a constituent state within the kingdom, that now we are on equal par. Now we too are a country in the kingdom with our own parliament, prime minister, and government, that we now can run our affairs just like those in Europe, those who enrich themselves off the sweat and tears of our parents, that we are equal in terms of the development. Yes, we are equal as humans, but we are not equal in wealth. The wealth that they have is wealth that was built off the sweat and tears of our ancestors, and that is where the reparation comes in. And we need first to sensitize our people, to educate our people who we are, where we came from, and where we are going, and that we can move forward with one vision, with one mission, as one people, rather than chopping each other down every turn of the way. And the masters are smiling and looking at us and saying, job well done. Job well done. So, Mr. Chairman, I won't be throwing rocks at the government. I won't be among those that will say, his budget can't have my approval because it's not realistic. It is not this and it's not that. Mr. Chairman, then let the first one who can put a budget together fulfilling all the needs that we would need, all the needs that we would want, the kind of medical center, the kind of education facilities, the kind of infrastructure, housing, and telecommunication, the kind of that we would like or that we have seen elsewhere. But where does the income come from? If we would have to live up to all these international treaties and agreements and adhere to all the things that the Western world and Western Europe particularly, the standards that they have reached, and we are holding a passport saying we are European citizens, but we are not benefiting from the same standards as set in Europe because we have been colonized, we are the yard slaves, and therefore we can't be equal to them. But when they want to keep us in their grips, they continue to say and do what I have called from 2017, make these indecent proposals. Then they set conditions on you. The CFT is there breathing down our necks, but only with one mission, to say no, no, and no again when it suits their agenda. But what we need is a partner who looks and walks and talks and works with us along the way of your infrastructure need upgrading, you need this, that, and that, we will help you. Because when we were building our wealth, it is your ancestors that we used to toil the land to make sure that we got rich. to make sure that we got salt, to make sure that we got, to make sure that we had. And therefore now today, it is your turn to build your country, to get it up to par, to get it up to level, but not to constantly be placing conditions on our governments that they can't function the way they would want to. And that brings us then to this budget, where some would want to call it, oh, a budget that you have to cut, you have to cut, you have to cut because you have to balance. Yes, okay, let's do it their way and put in the budget exactly what we would want. Because at the end of the day, if you don't understand that a budget would have to reflect first on this side your income, and to balance on the other side, the amount has to be equal. Equal or less. And there you have a budget with a little surplus, with a little extra that you can do something extra with. But you can't put on this side all the needs, all the wishes, all the desires that we have to build and to run and to maintain the right and the proper country, St. Maarten. Then we are going to come to 1.6 billion, let's say, but our income is only still 500,000. Now balance that. Have an income of 500 million, I mean, not 1,000, but 500 million. Have an income of 500 million, but on the expenditure side, you have 1.6 billion. And then, yes, we have a budget that reflects the needs of the people of St. Maarten. But that's a wish list. It becomes a budget when we can balance the two against each other. And therefore, I want to commend the government for their ability to steer the ship through these turbulent times, keep the ship afloat, and get us to where we are. Some of us can be very critical about the things that did not yet happen, because I still have hopes that some of it will still happen, because we still have 9 to 10 months left of this government. And for what I have seen governments that I have been part of, for what we were able to do in a year or in 9 months, and the preparation that this government has been through, I believe that they too can accomplish a whole lot more than was already done. I don't need to list what all they have done it already. But I want to commend them for projecting as well some of the things that are still in the proverbial pipeline. When I see the new minister, Minister Lambrix comes in and so-called hit the ground running by not trying to be a rocket scientist and invent things or try to invent things. But he goes in the files, he pick up what was there, what was in the pipeline, what was waiting, dust them off, doesn't really care whose initiative it was, or whether it goes back to 5, 6, or 10 years. But we need, and we have been talking about a bus terminal. Let's get it done. We were talking about a taxi or a bus holding where big buses can come, or where the buses that go into the different districts pull out from. Let's get it done. We were talking about partnerships to get certain things, the marketplace moving. let's get that too done. And one may want to look at it from the opposite side and say, yeah, but the minister, he ain't invent that. That was there already. It wasn't there. It was an intention, it was a plan, but it was never carried out. And if this minister comes and in a couple months' time can tighten his belt and get it done, I hope a couple months from now I can say, Minister, job well done. Our Minister of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, we have had long, lengthy discussions about the 1 cent on gasoline, and I'm happy that he's reporting that it is getting off the ground, that monies are being collected, and that the monies will go to the benefit of sports. Mr. Chairman, I have one caution only is that, Minister, probably you're biting off more than you can chew in the sense of the amount of things the minister wants to accomplish with the 1 cent. Minister, it's only 1 cent. And we need you to be realistic and look at how much does it yield. And if it's APS, we are going to have that discussion with. Have that discussion, the sooner the better with APS. APS, if I am turning over X amount per month on 1 cent of gasoline, how much can we borrow against that 1 cent and for how many years? So what will our monthly or our annual payback be? Then, Minister, you know you have 10, 15, or 20 million to invest in the sports infrastructure. And I would agree with my colleague, MP Rumu, that besides a cricket stadium, one of the other first things should be on your priority list is a Center for Performing Arts. It is long overdue. This weekend, the daughter of our MP, one of the great talents we have on the island, will be performing with many other daughters in Sint Maarten in the dance school owned by Susha and my daughter, Indira. They will be performing at the Cultural Center this weekend coming and next weekend. But the center is too small. And that is why they have to put on 2 shows on per weekend over 2 weekends, making it 4 shows to get at least the parents an opportunity to see their children, but to showcase them to more people and to expose more people to the talent that our young people have. We need, besides a cricket stadium, we need a center for performing arts. And Minister, I want to impress upon you again, look at the cost of the properties that have been there now on the books for several years. Borrow a page from another minister and say, if the discussions were ongoing for years, let me round them off. I have now the infrastructure in place to make a payment or to buy it outright. Because if it's 4, 5, or 6 million that you need to invest in property, then that's a starting point. And then if it takes another 5, 6, or 7 million for construction, that's a continuation. Put it all together, approach APS, and see what they are willing to do. Because if they can invest our pension money in a zip line, then they can definitely invest our pension money in our young people. In our young people, who in the next couple of years will be contributing as well to that same pension fund. And some of them, their parents and or grandparents will be having or have already started having their pensions paid from that pension fund. And the healthier that pension fund is, the better for us. And what better combination can we have than our pension fund keeping the next generation to come healthier, giving them more opportunities than we have had, to have a state-of-the-art cricket field, to have a state-of-the-art of a performing center for the arts. And in terms of benefits for sports tourism and benefits for developing our arts, enhancing and helping our economy, they will contribute to that as well. So it's a win, 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 win down the line. Mr. Chairman, all I'm asking the minister is to make a review of how much are we getting, how much do we need, how we can combine the needs, again, balancing that budget, our income, which is the 1 cent on gasoline at this end, our expenditures, which is the investments that we make combined with a possible return on investment, but also maintaining the investment that we need, and this is the formula that we would have. We may not be able to build all the facilities that a minister would want, and definitely not now, but before the important pieces of property that were reserved for the cricket field and the Center for Performing Arts, before they disappear in the overall development, because the owners could very well feel government is not serious, and next thing you hear, the properties are gone. Or the price now is going through the roof. Minister, you have my full support on this, and any assistance I can give, just knock on the proverbial door. Minister, there's also one thing that I didn't hear from you, which was discussions that we have had in the party and in the coalition about the Arthur Lugis Memorial Scholarship Fund, where government establishes the Arthur Lugis Scholarship Fund, which will benefit, in first instance, students who are going to school in Tallahassee, but by extension, once the fund grows, students in general. Because what we see, government provides a certain amount of study financing. And even though through the in-state tuition that was so properly and so well negotiated by the now late Arthur Lugis, hundreds of St. Maarten students, including at least one minister in this present government, benefited from that as a student at Tallahassee, as a graduate of Tallahassee. One of the problems we still have, that even though the in-state tuition is much less, government would have to pay to study in Tallahassee as they would have to pay to study in Washington, New York, or Miami. There is always a financial burden to the parents. Some parents got to even take a loan, but some parents can afford to write a check every month or to make a bank transfer every month for their child. But there are many who can't. And when we put a committee together, and along with this extra scholarship fund, they would be able to help any amount that parents can help to offset the cost of their child studying abroad would be welcome. And this, we will be creating a fund in memory of someone who has done something great for already several hundreds of students from St. Maarten, and with offering many more in the future, a possibility where their education is concerned. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy that the minister has pointed out also that the long-awaited reconstruction, renovation, repairs at the Martin Luther King School in Dutch Quarter is finally getting off the ground. Better late than never. It's only when you in the kitchen, you know how hot it is. And in this case, it's only when you're in Parliament, you know how cold the room can be at times and how warm it can get. And Mr. Chairman, whatever the reasons may have been for us on the outside to perceive it as a delay, important is that the good news was finally broken to the parents, the families, and particularly the students and teachers, that Martin Luther King School will finally be rebuilt. And one of the things that is important politically for us to take stock of, had this government been a government that was sent home after a year, the minister would have never been able to say, during my time in office, I completed this or that. The minister would not have been able to say so. The Minister of Finance would not have been able to bring innovations to how taxes are paid or how monies in general are paid to government. So therefore, the amount of time this government is in office, and with the players we have now fully committed to this coalition, critical when we have to of the government, but fully in support of the government, we can say this government is heading to set what should be the standard of the future, that governments are elected, given a term of 4 years to work together and complete the program, or as much as possible of that program that they have set out to complete. So all of those little bits and pieces, the completion of the Dutch Quarter sewage project, as we call it, let that too begin. And so there are several other things that are in the pipeline. The realization of the Parliament building. I am happy to have been able, as chairman of the new Parliament Building Committee, to sign off on the terms of reference that we have approved. For this is what our building should be like. These are the things that we need in our new Parliament, given the fact that I have decided that I will no longer run. I'm not running for office again. I am sorry that I won't be there as a member of Parliament for the opening and inauguration of the building, but for what this government, and in particular the Minister of Finance, has committed to, seeing that he will pick up the ball and run with it until he scores the touchdown, that in a short, if you use an analogy, others are allowed to use it and use it better than you did. Let's stick to the points. Minister, continue to run with that ball, score your touchdown, and bring home that new Parliament building, and by extension, the office park that would have to be realized over at the old government building. My colleague, MP Bryson, spoke about the much-needed multi-floor parking garage as well. It is time that we get our infrastructure, much-needed infrastructure, moving, and the longer a government stays in office, the more they can accomplish, and it's even better when that same government or that same coalition can return for a second term. So I want to wish you all much success, continued success. There are not too many who would have been able to function under these circumstances and would have simply said, no, 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 pack their bags, and they would have been gone because they can't agree to make concessions for the best interest of our people. This government was able to withstand the criticism and take decisions that were not popular. Some of them, when they were taken in the face of COVID, some of the talks were, the government got to be crazy. They can't open the place now. And they're trying to kill the people. And they shouldn't. But today we all can say, job well done, government. You have withstand the criticism. You were able to take the blows, but see that better days were coming, and they came. And there are some of them, or some of us, among us, who would want to say, you see, I didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with that from the beginning. But Mr. Chairman, not agreeing is one thing. But what's the alternative? Because it's easy to criticize. It's easy to say no. But in the end, people need food on their table. People need some sort of comfort and security. When no cruise ships are coming and taxis can't stand in line to take home a bread, government got to do and had to do and did what they had to do. It sounds like poetry or like a rhyme, but in the end, government did what government had to do for the people of Sint Maarten to be able to survive and pull through this economy. We have been talking about Airbnb going back to 2016 or 15, and it is finally becoming a reality again because government was able to stay in office long enough to make sure that these things fall in place. I will support this budget along with the rest of the faction, and we are looking forward to the next budget being bigger and better, but in the end, just like this one, realistic. If you don't have, you can't spend. It is not about what you would want to do, but in the end, what you could do with what you have. Mr. Chairman, I thank you, and I want to wish this government all the best.
Thank you, MP Marlin. The next person on the list is MP Hyacinth Richardson. MP Richardson, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the members of Parliament. Good afternoon to the ministers and those who sit in the tribune. Good afternoon. To the good people of Sint Maarten, good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, this government I have a lot of appreciation for, Mr. Chairman. And I will repeat, this government I have a lot of appreciation for. Why did I say this? Because this government came into office in a time like when we have hurricane, COVID, and COVID, which means to say it was tough times to steer this government and govern the people of this country. 2017, hurricane hit us in September. We lost the tourist season 2017. We lost the tourist season in 2018. And then turn around 2020, February or March, there comes the great COVID that devastated the whole world. And because of that, again, we lost 2 years. This is what this government had to endure, and not just the government, the people of Sint Maarten. In every single sector, the people of Sint Maarten had to endure this. And for this, I want to compliment and commend this government and also the people of Sint Maarten. We had to make tough decisions, and they were made, not because of practically this government fault, but because of persons who have mismanaged this country and dealing with the government in the past. If there was not for mismanagement, we wouldn't been able to take this country through some of the difficult times that we endure for the last 3.5 years. Mr. Chairman, I want to compliment the Finance Minister. And I can also compliment ministers before him who've been holding this position, such as Mr. Roland Tuitt, Mr. Xavier Blackman, Mr. Richard Gibson, and all of the NASPA National Alliance government, and now Mr. Arian. For a young man to do what he have done and steer this country, I want to compliment him for that. He have done a job, I think, that our opposition persons in Parliament could not really do. So, Mr. Arian, through you, Mr. Chairman, I will compliment you for the great job you have done as a young man. And I'm going to say to other young people who's in here in Parliament, we have to stop this. We have to stop tearing down our own who's trying and who we have seen done a great job. And we have to learn to complement each other. Mr. Chairman, there's a lot of things when we look at this minister and the tax compliance. You are trying to make sure that big business pay what they owe before for many years and stay current with what they have to pay now. We have seen him take work from 2016, 2014, get them done that he made there and other ministers have not done. You have done it, and this is why CFT have complimented you. And that is an honor to be part of a government that you're steering from the finance portfolio. Mr. Chairman, I also have to say, when we go back to 95, when we had the hurricane, my person in Island Council with Mr. Edwin James, who was one of my advisors, we went to Mr. Lambert and we discussed with him about having cable put on the ground because what we have seen happen after that hurricane. And 2 years after, they started to work on the underground cabling of this country. And I'm going to make it brief because we had many meetings with Mr. Lambert. Then he turned us over to his technical staff, and we had many meetings with them. And today, I want to compliment the government also for making sure some people don't see this as important, but it's a big thing for Sint Maarten. Underground cabling will help us to come back after any hurricane much faster and much stronger. So I am grateful for all of these hard work that is taking place throughout the district of Sint Maarten, throughout every single district. Mr. Chairman, I have stayed here for many years and asked to see more roads done to help bring back, to help the economy. Because when some investors, managers have to stay in the traffic, just like anyone else, it hinders the business. And trying to have more roads available is very important to make sure people can reach the destination and so forth to do the daily work or the daily business. So therefore, I'm still asking this government to make sure and see to it that roads get built, roads that is being there in the road network program to take it seriously. Because just not too long ago, last week, we had kids here from the St. Joseph School, and they was asked, what is the main concerns in Sint Maarten? And out of 4 or 5 concerns of the kids, roads was the first, minimum wage was the second. And this is what is important. Here you have little kids, 6, 8, 9, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, telling you about the traffic situation in Sint Maarten. So we need to fix it. We don't need no one to come here and tell us, FCCA, about the traffic situation, which happens. They have came here and told us about the traffic and certain things. We have to get this done. There's ways to get it done, and we have the expertise right here. Mr. Marlin can help assist with these. For sure, he have spoken to many landowners in the past, so the work, some of the work have already been done. It's just the will to make it happen. The marketplace, we have heard a lot about the marketplace over the last years. And I too would like to see this marketplace become a reality for those persons who use this marketplace, and not just for the persons who own a spot there, but for the people who will shop at the marketplace. Because what happens there over the last years, they have to move every single day, and also they have to endure the weather. When it rains, they get wet, the material can get wet, or what they have selling can get wet, and so forth. So they go through tremendous issues, and I too would like to see this marketplace become a reality. And I'm going to thank you, Minister, for bringing it up here. And I know you say you're having 350,000 from one of the cruise line, which is commendable. And I know that would not be sufficient. So we would like to know what would the marketplace cost to build this marketplace completely, and when will it commence? Agriculture. For years we've been talking about agriculture, but we need to see something tangible happen for agriculture. St. Kitts and Nevis have gone ahead since with the COVID on agriculture. Sint Maarten is still stagnant from the days that they do away with agriculture for tourism. But we need both. And I want to implore this government to make it possible to see agriculture come back as another economic pillar for Sint Maarten. And also for food security. It will be very important because, God forbid, if we have another disaster, a catastrophe throughout the world, we be needed food and sometimes it may not be here in time. So if we have our own food network, we can do a lot more in taking care of the high prices of food. We don't have to produce everything here, but we have to start here. We have to start in Sint Maarten first, and I want to see. It's time now to take agriculture from the back burner and put it in the front burner, and let's produce our own vegetables and our own provision. Sports, Mr. Chairman, I think for the Commissioner of Sports, I think he should have dialogues with the Minister of Tourism and see in which avenue we can develop sports tourism and get some of the needed funds into sports. We have talked a lot about the great cricket field, swimming pools, Olympic swimming pools, and many, many more. So let's cut the talking and let's get it done now. It's time to make these things happen. Justice, I am grateful, just like I believe the men and women in blue will be grateful. It's a lengthy time taking care of making sure you put everything in order, crossing the T's and dotting the I's to make sure that when you completed this, it's a thing of the past. And I'm happy to hear, and which I know from the previous budget, a year and months ago, that a certain amount of millions was put there on the budget to pay police officers, but you needed to do it the right way. And I am grateful for this, and I would like to see this happen as soon as possible, that these workers can be put in the right positions and get what is due for them over the years. Monuments, I can remember in the days of preparing for budget, this was one of the tasks that I used to prepare for. Sports, culture, environment, labor, and health was where I used to prepare. And we used to be in discussions all 2 in the morning, between 2 and 6. William calling us, Mr. Marlin, MP, and we calling Mr. Marlin and preparing for budgets. Those were the years when we would leave Parliament 5:15 and 4:45 in the morning, or the Island Council and so forth. And when you go home for 5 days and 3 days, you can't sleep because you're so worked up in the meetings. I don't prepare like that anymore, but I want to see this country move forward. And that's one of the reasons why I hang into politics so long, because I'm going to make sound decisions when it comes to critical voting. I also want to commend each and every minister because they are trying their best. And I've always said this, with God on our side, we can smile at the storm. And I too would like to see this government come back for another 4 years, because that's when we really will shine, when we get all what we want done, because we couldn't get everything done in the last 3.5 years because of the tough time we were in, because of the issues, and the economy in the world was at shambles. Mr. Chairman, I want to leave it there for now. In the second round, I will talk more about monuments and more about sports and the economy. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. God bless the people of Sint Maarten.
Thank you, MP Richardson. Thank you, members of Parliament. All members have posed their questions to various ministers. I now look to my right, and I know I have indication from Minister of Social Labor, Minister of VSA, Mr. Omar Otley. He's ready with his answers. Minister Omar Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to the members of Parliament, the viewing and listening public. I'll dive right into the answers. MP Sarah Westcott wanted a list of my predecessors before me. First Minister, Minister Maria Boncampa. Second, MP Sarah Westcott, acting. Third, Minister Cornelius de Weaver. Fourth, Minister Rita Gums-Bourne. Fifth, Minister Raphael Boseman. Sixth, Minister Emile Lee. PM Leona Marlin, acting. Minister Egbert Duran, acting. Minister Pamela Gording. Minister Richard Panafleck. And then, of course, number 11, yours truly, Minister Omar Atley. So I move to her other question. Can you provide the advice from the Council of Advice regarding the AOV indexation? When are we going to get the law that has to be changed? The documents regarding the AOV indexation will be provided MP. The reparation law to support the indexing of the AOV is presently at the Council of Advice. This reparation law is to change the use of August CPI and move it to the CPI of the second quarter, not only for AOV legislation, but other legislations such as minimum wage. What is the reason for the decrease in costs in the tea shelter? Provide a breakdown. The main reason for the decrease is due to the decrease in the rent of the building. The rent went from $72,000 to $63,000 for the rental of the entire building. A breakdown of the costs: we have operational costs, expenses, which includes rental fees, utility fees, telephone costs, internet costs, food costs, general maintenance costs, cooking gas, office administration, supply, extermination, septic services, MISC expense. We have personnel expense as well, which is management and consultation expense, program coordinator expense, counselor expense, social worker expense, residence monitoring expense, security guard expense, chef expense, assistant chef and resident monitor accounting services, just-in-time MP expense. And the total $131,000 is for both operational and personal expense. What is the Port Health Service? What is it about? Well, based on the World Health Organization international health regulations, countries need to ensure that all their port of entries are significantly and safely manned. For instance, there's a requirement and a responsibility that CPS now takes when it deals with the maritime health declarations, which is currently a requirement as stipulated in the International Health Regulation for cruise. Before cruise ships are allowed to berth, it is the responsibility of the ship to report the health of all the passengers. This holds true and the same for the airport. However, there is currently no country mandate to request such documents for airplane arrival. One, in 2022, an assessment was done by PAHO on Sint Maarten and our ports of entry. And what we have learned is that we have actually failed to live up to these regulations by not having a port health at all our points of entry. I move to number 4 of MP Westcott regarding the cannabis. On September 6th, an RFP of the legalization of the cannabis was made public. The deadline for submission was December 6th, 3 months after. The purpose of the RFP was a way for the government of St. Maarten to request for local, regional, international organizations who wish to work with the government to create a full path towards legal, responsible, feasible entrance of cannabis into our industry. The request for proposal was strongly focused on conducting several studies into the effect of legalizing cannabis before any concrete decisions are made. Again, the request for proposal was strongly focused on conducting several studies into the effects of legalizing cannabis on St. Maarten before any concrete decisions can be made on how cannabis will be legalized. The aim is to find experts who will help us conduct the many studies that needs to be carried out, advertise, and the best legal framework for St. Maarten in such way. that much of the economic, social, and medical benefits will remain and the benefit of the people of Sint Maarten, and ultimately develop the required legislation and amendments to the existing legislation. Important to note that the RFP was approved by the Council of Ministers to begin the process, and indeed it is an interministerial effort. As per the LEAL, a ministerial regulation that further regulates the interministerial collaboration was developed and will soon be signed and published. The National Cannabis Legislation Working Group consists of 3 persons from Ministry of Public Health, 3 persons from the Ministry of Justice, and 3 persons from the Ministry of Tourism. You also asked for a copy of the tender. It will be sent to the members of Parliament. As a matter of fact, I think it has been sent. So we have no problem in sharing that. I move to your next question, MP. The ministry checks the report subsidies attached to the budget. Can some of these numbers do not correspond? Can this please be checked? We checked and we double checked upon your advice, and we had no discrepancies. Under the service level agreement listing, are we in accordance with the accountability ordinance? Yes, we are. We listed medical advisor for ambulance under 50, that has an LB, sorry. Appeals committee, that was done via tender, that was over 50,000. So when I say non-applicable, this is under 50,000. When I say tender, it's over. So we had ARV dispensation, non-applicable, which is under, on-call nurse, non-applicable, secretary of the appeals committee, this was tendered, family medical practice, non-applicable, Oasis Medical Clinic, non-applicable, public relations officer of the cabinet, tendered, plus LB, legal advisor of Department of Labor, this was tendered, legal advisor of cabinet, this was tendered, social worker of CDFHA, this was tendered, consultant substance abuse mental health, this was tendered, the RAV Covenant Cooperation Ambulance Services has an LB, Dr. J Foundation, as we mentioned, this was tendered, priority dispatch system via ambulance, this is not applicable, yearly license fee subscription, non-applicable. So those are the lists under the Ministry of VSA. MP De Weaver, are we able to accommodate the French side with water? MP, yes, we are. We currently produce more water than what is being consumed on the Dutch side. And based on the excess water and the discussions with the French side, the amount needed can be supplied by the Dutch side. As stated before, we are going into the logistics. French side has sent their requirements to the ministry. We forwarded to NVGEBE to see if they can meet or match the requirements of the French side. Once this is done, we will then move forward with the negotiations. MP Helga Martin, which SDGs are assigned to your ministry and why? Well, the ministry, we have goal number 1. So for those who don't know, SDGs are Sustainable Development Goals, okay? We have goal number 1, no poverty. Goal number 2, zero hunger. Goal number 3, health and well-being. Goal number 8, decent work and economic growth. So the decent work and economic growth is us creating opportunities for our people, creating a wide and vast, so we did job fairs, we have the online portals to help our people to better match with their jobs and make it more accessible. We have good health and well-being. We are moving into the proactive and health preparedness sector. SAV is also having a health wellness center because preparedness is better than cure. So we are moving into that and promoting healthy exercise and a healthy St. Maarten, in which we will conduct a How Healthy is St. Maarten survey finally in the coming year. The last one was done in 2015. Zero hunger is ways that we have started the agroecology program, 3 of them to help persons be more sustainable and learn how to plant and you know, be less dependent on supermarkets and those type of things. The number one, no poverty. I specifically let this one for last because this is important. Poverty is something, as well as we learn, we are working on the cost of living. We have increased the minimum wage, but yes, we believe that the cost of living is something that needs to be noted. But poverty as well is also a mind frame. A country is only as good as its leaders. And what we do, we create this conception that in order to be one with our people, we have to be poor, we have to be suffering. And this is something that I personally do not agree on. That is why when we see someone excelling, whether it's a nice car, the first thing we do is look at that person, look what they got. And we don't think to say, we want to work, to excel, to be like that person or better than that person. And it starts with our leaders, and it will start with me. And I will say it, I will not downplay myself. I will always strive to be the best that I can be, because guess what? I went to school, I decided to further my degree. When I got my degree, I decided to further it and get a master's degree and decide to excel. And I want this message to go out to the entire population of St. Maarten. You can do it, you can excel. So sometimes poverty is a mind frame, and if you're looking for this minister to say, and pity with you, we will not. I will help you excel and create the opportunities for you to get up, go, and get the jobs, and let us do what we need to do. So I just wanted to get that message out there, MP. This is a very good question that you asked, and I thank you for that question. MP Gums, we move to your question. What is the further details with the tourist tax or health levy or whatever it may be, according to yourself, MP? When will we be presented with the legislation? The current legislation is drafted as stated before and is in the preparation stage to be sent to the Senate. We have been working closely with Aruba in connection to ensure that we have a strong approach in how this law and how this law will be carried out. One of the main things as stated, MP Bryson brought the legislation. It had some remarks from the Council of Advice indeed, but that actually helped us because we were then presented the law by the MP. We had the advice of the Council of Advice. We hired legal consultation, and we worked within the framework to ensure the best possible advice once it goes now to the legislative trajectory. Have any conversations been had with the CEO of the harbor and the airport? Yes, conversations had been had with the CEO of the harbor, who will provide us with his feedback this week. Conversations had been held with the CEO of the airport, who is in agreement as long as we create a substantial product for the tourists of St. Maarten. And one of his prime examples is, why not create hotspots within the beaches of Philipsburg, Great Bay, Muller Bay that can benefit tourists? This was just an example of things that we can do to help boost our tourism product within St. Maarten. Also, with some of the concerns of the stakeholders, it forced us to do an impact study where we hired a consultant to do an impact study within 21 airports within the region. Currently, St. Maarten does not have an arrival fee, and we are the 12th most expensive out of the 21 currently. If, with the impact study, we can do a fee between $15 to $35, and this would only bring us to number 9. So therefore, to remain competitive, we are looking between $15 to $25. We move to the question of MP Peterson. Can I see all the contracts for person who works in EHAS? And please provide me with how much did it cost? Well, MP, unfortunately, due to privacy, I cannot provide you with that information. If persons wish to do so, they are free, but I cannot provide you. But what I can provide you with is that a total of 35 persons were contracted over a period of 2020 to 2022. In 2020, the total cost was 472,038 guilders. 2021, it had a total cost of 1,479,179. In 2022, we had a total cost of 1,591,344. And for 2023, a total cost of 91,000. There are currently no EHAS workers at the airport, so therefore the total from 2020 to 2023 ran as 3,790,808. I move to the questions of MP Duncan. What is the update of the big legislation? The big legislation, as we know, is a big hindrance in St. Maarten because it doesn't allow persons that have not studied within the Netherlands to work here. We have been hearing this complaint throughout eternity from before my STEM in politics on how we send persons to Colombia, Santo Domingo, and those same doctors cannot work here. So we are currently working on the big legislation, but while we are working on that, it's going to take a long-term trajectory. So what we have covered is that we can then make an amendment to the law in which we are working on that would then allow us to widen the pool of professionals that can come to St. Maarten. There's an article that allows the minister to make the exception due to circumstance. What is the circumstance? So what we will now do is define this circumstance and use that as a short-term basis to widen the pool of doctors and medical professionals that can work in St. Maarten and help alleviate this problem within the short term. What is the communication? What communication is ongoing, if any, between ECYS and VSR concerning the 8 student doctors who are studying abroad now and their ability to practice here on the island? The Department of Public Health has not been contacted by ECYS regarding this selection of territory education facility. The selection of tertiary education facility and provide medical education outside of the Netherlands. However, the Department of Public Health is more than willing to share with any student who is interested can't get this one, so I'll just speak as a minister. So we are interested. We have not been contacted about this situation, but once we are aware of the situation, especially the persons being Landskins person of St. Maarten, what there is a committee for persons who are from St. Maarten where we will monitor and determine the level of their education, if it does qualify to that of the Netherlands. So this is something that we do not do for persons who are not from St. Maarten, but if you are from and study abroad, there's a committee that will then assess and determine your qualification and if it matches. I think that's a much clearer and better answer I can give. MP Rumu, what activities and programs are planned in 2023 that directly impact our seniors? Well, MP Rumu, as you know, we have the ongoing SMART program. We will continue this for 2023. In addition, as you know, March 25th, and I would like to make this public announcement, we are doing a health screening for our seniors at the John Lamini Center from 9 a.m. We invite everyone to come out. We will continue to do more checks and screenings for our seniors and elderly. We are looking to see if possibly we can find budget to implement a dental program, something for them, eyesight programs. We also will continue the assistance of the tax and SZV assistance that we do at the community help desk. What else am I missing? Any other activities? We have the other cohort that will be rolled out for the home repair program for the elderly and vulnerable. And we will continue to do our community days. What we also did in Community Development, Family Humanitarian Affairs is something called Family Day. And this is something that we would like to also incorporate with our elderlies, as much elderlies would complain that they don't see their kids as often. Everyone is grown, has their own life, and that essence of family is missing within the community. Can the minister give information on what assistance is given to our seniors who are shut in and any plans in 2023 and beyond to cater? Currently, there's no assistance provided to our seniors who are housebound. However, the ministry will conduct an assessment and comprehend this need. And MP, I must commend you on this question because this is something, I'll be honest, that probably went above or under my radar, and due to your question, it's now directly on the radar, and we will make amendments and possible assessments to help and deal with these persons that are shut in. So that is a very good question. Thank you for bringing that to light. Does the ministry have any data, actual numbers on persons who are shut in? No. So now you have brought it to light, and it will start on a whole new assessment. Thank you for that. MP Arundel, how do you feel about the budget? I don't have to look at the paper for this one. I have stated yesterday, of course, no MP, no minister wants to make cuts. I was one that was not a proponent of cuts. However, I understood that this is a reality budget, a realistic budget. If you look at what was budgeted in 2022, 92 million, and what was actually used, and trust me, I can tell you, I did projects in the Ministry of VSR. We used 86 million. So the minister still used that and budgeted 88 million. So I understand the need, and I understand that we need to generate more income. The more income we generate, we can always come back here later on and ask for an amendment with proper proof of monies being generated and the budget not being sufficient. So I am okay with the budget. I can make it work. Oh, I have reached the end. I look forward to any clarifications. I thank you, members of parliament, for your questions. Some of your questions has opened up insight in how to make the ministry and make me a better minister. So thank you.
Thank you, Minister Otley. I would like to take a small break of 5 minutes before I continue. Meeting adjourned for 5 minutes. Welcome back. During the break, Minister just made me known that he has missed 2 answers, so I will give the Minister of Labor and Social, Mr. Omar Otley, the floor, and after that, we'll go into clarification round. Mr. Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you. Please accept my apologies, MP Panaflet, MP Rolando Bryson. You asked a question. You answered it yourself, but you asked it, so I still have to answer it. Do I think all of the legislation, the BIC laws, all of the initiatives that VSR wants to put forward, the home repair programs and all of that, in the budget benefits the people of St. Maarten? That goes without a doubt. It do benefit the people of St. Maarten, so I just wanted to answer that question. MP George Pantoflet, you asked about the provision in the ministry's budget for persons who seek assistance in understanding their labor rights. Well, we will convene with workshops and different programs to help persons understand their labor rights. Because what we realize is that, me being in this position for this time being, is that persons indeed don't know their rights. But what we also notice is that employers also don't know their rights. And we are aware that many persons, just as they don't know the labor law, some employers don't know the dismissal law as well. And this creates a rift because some employers feel that, and this is where the word permanent comes in, they have that fear of somebody being permanent, they can never be fired. That's not true. And I think that we need to clarify, you know, the true essence between an employer and employee. And I think once we both understand the civil code, especially the new civil code, and if amendments is to come, we do need public relations and workshops leading up to the new amendment to help avoid any more confusion that can be caused. So I just wanted to clarify that, MP. It'll be towards workshops and different programs to help better educate employers and employees.
Thank you, Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Mr. Omar Otley. Now we go into clarification, and I see the first person is MP Sarah Westcott-Williams. MP Sarah Westcott-Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, good afternoon to my colleagues and the ministers here, the support staff, those in the Tribune. Mr. Chairman, I have brought this matter up before, but I want to do it again, more so for the general public to understand, because as you might imagine, my phone sort of blew up earlier today, you know? And questions like, please, please, MP, you got to, you know, those kind of questions. So I want to say this to those kind of comments. Our Constitution, Article 65, and I think when we mention a Constitution and articles, we should explain what they say, not just throw out articles that apply. But when I say 65, I am referring to the fact that every member of parliament, every minister, and anyone else who in this chamber, so in the meeting of parliament, has immunity. That's what I want to get at. So that's the article I am referring to, has immunity. Now, what does that mean? Immunity. You have it, Mr. Chairman, I have it, we have it. The ministers, while in here, in the meeting, they have it, immunity.
MP Sarah Westcott-Williams,
Yes,
is that a clarification on the answers
Yes,
you
it
received
is.
from the minister?
Yes, I'm getting to the clarification.
Would be great. Thank you.
Because I'm getting to your position as well, Mr. Chairman, during my clarifications. So as I was saying, to the people of St. Maarten, we enjoy immunity. We cannot be prosecuted for anything that is said in here. But, Mr. Chairman, the mistake is going to be made that it's going to be said outside of this meeting. And that's a different story. Mr. Chairman, consider this a point of order if you wish, if you think it does not apply to clarifications. According to Article 8 of our Rules of Order, you, Mr. President, represents the Parliament, and every member of Parliament. Mr. Chairman, I think you're failing. You're failing in your representation of this member of Parliament. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you as a point or proposal of order. You are the chair of the Presidium. Has the Presidium discussed the search of Parliament offices on March 17th? Is my question. If not, why not? If so, what was discussed? And did this discussion lead to any action by the Presidium? Has a report been made, and can it be shared? And now, to the Minister, who hopefully could clarify a few things for me. Minister, I had indicated to you that March is Gambling Awareness Month. You remember we had this? And by the way, like I said that, Minister, I realize because of many of my questions and topics that I touched is why I had to refer to the immunity thing. You get a connection, Minister, through the chairperson of Parliament? So as I continue, I need to say to my colleagues, expect more of the same. But again, in these four walls, within these four walls. But Minister, as we were saying, but I don't remember you going into it, Minister. I said that apparently, not apparently, Turning Point had indicated that March is gambling awareness. So I was wondering if from your perspective, your ministry especially, if any follow-up, if any action, intentions, ideas with respect to the issue of gambling, the many lotteries, and that discussion that we had, especially with the Minister of TIAT, where the many locations are concerned. But from your perspective, to the chairperson of Parliament, of course, I would like to know if your department is, or your ministry, is looking at this in any way, because one of the laws that are in the make regarding lottery, according to reports that we have seen, not only from the Social Economic Council, but also from the General Audit Chamber regarding gambling on Sint Maarten. By the way, this is why I had said to the Minister of Justice what I said, and those who remember what I said would understand why I said it now, I hope. But I continue to ask the Minister if from the perspective of those laws, apparently, that lotteries and casinos should contribute to government dealing with the issue of gambling on Sint Maarten. So that's why I asked this minister if from his perspective, if anything is being done, and I'm talking about the addiction of gambling especially, and that the laws, I hope in the new laws, and now I look at the minister who's sitting next to the Minister of VSA, I hope that in the new laws that would be taken up, that some of the contribution from these establishments could go towards government dealing with the gambling addiction on St. Maarten. The minister, I did not get your response with respect to the transitional shelter rather. And because from what I remember on the screens that were presented, a bid went out and that had lowered the amount compared to what it was from 147 to 130. But as I was coming in, I understood that the rent had gone up. So if you could just give me, the rent went down. So if you could just give me the breakdown of the operational part of it. I understand the services part, but the operational part of it. Minister, you spoke about poverty. And I know you constantly are highlighting this issue of the social registry that you're working on. And I ask if you have is there anything that would kind of go towards establishing a poverty line, whatever you want to call it? But is there anything within that component of the social registry or not that will go in that direction? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the minister, Minister, I heard your answer with respect to the SDGs, and I had asked the Prime Minister as well, how are these monitored? And has the Ministry of VSA, on the basis of the SDGs, suggested certain indicators and targets, and especially the part about the monitoring? monitoring and, monitoring in connection with the SDGs per se, so that you could have like a kind of a checklist. Minister, I heard your comment with respect to screening and preventative care, which I completely and fully endorse. And anytime your ministry or any other organization provides this kind of a service, I applaud it wholeheartedly. And I ask you, Minister, if you can give any consideration, because there are many foundations and organizations that provide screening for different groups and for different causes. Is there any way that the ministry, together with these organizations, can prepare a national screening plan to make it practically mandatory for certain groups at certain times to get screening, somewhat like what they have in the Netherlands? So if all of these efforts could be combined into a yearly plan of screening, and that it be done, especially again for certain target groups, you would have the screening, they be done once a year, twice a year, or whatever the need would be. Again, somewhat to what they do in the Netherlands, where again, depending on what target group you belong to, you will get a notification telling you that you have to come in and do a particular screening. And I think that all of the efforts that we have from the many organizations that work on screening, provide these screenings, including some of your departments, Minister, if you could put it all together, I think we'll have a wonderful national screening plan for our inhabitants. Minister of VSA, I think, Mr. Chairman, that I look forward to receiving, Mr. Chairman, the copy of the tender on the cannabis RFP. And, I wanted to ask the Minister. Minister, have the names of the persons who are part of the work group through you, Mr. Chairman, have those persons already been appointed in terms? I would like to know who form part of the three, and I think another three of the interministerial group that would together form the working group. Mr. Chairman, I want to leave it there for at least for the clarification round, and I thank you.
Thank you, MP Sarah Westcott-Williams. The next person I have is MP Melissa Gums. MP Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's more just to thank the Minister for answering the question. If the impact study could be shared with Parliament, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Gums. The next person is MP Ludmila D. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you, to my colleagues, and to you, Minister, here. Thank you for the answers. Minister, it was regarding the BIG legislation, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that my understanding was that, especially in the times that we actually have a major need for doctors, that the minister has the authority to do that in absence of this whole legislation come into place that will allow us to go outside of the regular places, meaning Netherlands, that we get trained doctors from. That's just the one clarification that I needed over that. Thank you.
Thank you, MP De Weaver. The next person I see is MP Bryson. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to thank you for your adjustments to the temperature. I think it's just fine in the room. Mr. Chairman, I had one clarification I would have liked from the minister, also in line with the BIC legislation, because one of the questions that is asked, or maybe if the minister can explain that sort of amendment that would be coming, could that lead to a situation where, for example, doctors who are currently treating our patients, for example, in Colombia, would it be a factor that, you have certain doctors that have already treated Sint Maarten patients, have the necessary medical qualifications, and now instead of us sending people to go to those doctors, that perhaps now by means of this amendment and all of those policies and whatever he's doing, that it possibly may mean that some of those doctors would then be able to come to Sint Maarten instead. Just if the minister can give if that's sort of an example that may be possible based on his initiative in terms of making adjustments to existing legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Bryson. I don't see any other MPs for clarification. I'll look to my right if Minister is ready right away for clarification. If not, I'll pose the Minister of TIAD. 2 minutes? Okay. Minister. Minister, you have the floor.
I'll start where my memory is most fresh. I'll start with MP Rolando Bryson. Yes, indeed, what we will do, we would add certain specifications, schools, criteria to the listing on what will be considered special circumstance. So it could be if you have met a specific standard, then we would very well allow that doctor to be able to come to St. Maarten, which will help in our cost savings. I move to MP Ludmila. I think it's basically the same thing, right? Okay, MP De Weaver, so I answer the two questions in one. MP Sarah Westcott, where it relates to March, the gambling month. Of course, VSA plays an active role in developing legislation in addition through CPS. We will also conduct PSAs. What the plan is to conduct, for instance, PSAs and other different visuals in promoting responsible gambling. We know that some people use gambling as a recreation and some people have a very destructive addiction, whereby they literally go, first place they go from work is to the casino. I have seen where wives would have to come and meet their husband at the casino just to take some of the money so they don't spend it all. So we understand that. So we will do, more of PSAs in promoting responsible gambling. Just to clarify, indeed, the tea shelter, the rental cost of the building decreased from $72,000 to $63,000. That was part of the main reason for the decrease. Everything will be sent to you in writing, MP, for further clarification. The breakdowns of the operational costs will be sent to you. There was a question on the poverty line. Well, the social registry system will help us to correctly develop this poverty line, where we go into the vulnerable neighborhoods of vulnerable, or go to the vulnerable groups within the neighborhoods and get real hard facts, real hard data to help us then better understand the situation, understand why this person isn't working. Is it due to educational level? Is it due to disability? Whatever the reasons are, then we can accumulate better data and do this. Does the ministry, how do we monitor with the SDGs? That would be one of them that I would have to get back to you with. Oh, and the other person is, can you name the persons that are appointed to the group of cannabis? I prefer not to list in this setting as yet, as a person or a group is not finalized, and due to the big nature of this RFP, I prefer not to, but I'd be willing to send it to you privately, if that suffices. But I don't want to publicly list the person's name, at least until the tender is awarded. It is a very sensitive matter. MP Gums, yes, the impact study can be sent to you. I think I have listed all the clarifications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Minister. On the matter of the screening, which I know was kind of,
yes.
I don't know if you would have that answer, as they would say in Dutch, paraat, but if not, if you can have it during the course of the answering of the second. I just want to get your opinion and feeling, and if it's even possible to have such for St. Maarten. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, if I know my staff, all of them are watching the screen right now and saying, Minister, shut up, because they know I'm going to say yes. But I'll wait on them to give me the feasibility of getting it done. But for me, I like the idea, and if it's something that can be done, I will push for it. But I need to definitely ask the staff that are listening if we can get it done and what is the feasible time. I don't like to make unrealistic promises, so we need to give you a feasible time on when it can be done. Thank you for the idea.
Thank you, Minister Utley. Member of Parliament Sarah Westcott William, for your question. The Presidium was informed by the greffier that the search was taking place on Friday. On Monday, the greffier received the needed documents and he is preparing the report for Presidium. The next minister is ready, and Minister of Tiat, Mr. Lambrix. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, honorable members of Parliament. Good afternoon, Greffier. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon to those listening via social media, via the radio. The questions of MP Sarah Westcott provide the list of the predecessor ministers of the Ministry of Tiat since 2010. We've had Mr. Franklin Myers, Mr. Romeo Ponteflet, Mr. Ted Richardson, Mr. Claret Connor, Mr. Ernest Sams, Ms. Ingrid Arundel, Mr. Raphael Boseman, who served as acting when there was no minister, Ms. Melissa Duncher Arundel, Mr. Cornelius de Weaver, who also served as acting when there was no minister of Tiat, Mr. Stuart Johnson, Ms. Melissa Duncher Arundel again, Ms. Pamela Gordon Carty, Ms. Ludmila de Weaver, Mr. Roger Lawrence, my predecessor, Minister Omar Atli, who also served as acting, and then myself. The next question was, is there a plan for the ship registry ready? Who is going to do it? How can this plan be executed quickly, and where will it be done? The Cabinet, with the help with the Maritime, who have been in consultation with both Curaçao and the Netherlands, the Ministry is in process of compiling all of the information received to have an RFP published. With the responses, we will move forward and decide who and how this will be handled. It will be done right. It will be done right here in Sint Maarten. We expect to have this finalized and active as soon as possible in order to start the services and in return the collection for such. Please explain how you came about the estimated income for the lottery. The amount displayed during my presentation was based on the current fees in place for the different types of games and lottos that we have. And with the ministry doing calculations, we came up with the amounts. The actual amount collected by the receivers in 2022 was 1,204,115 guilders. So by seeking how we can enforce and make sure everybody stays compliant, we came up with the numbers that we provided. We would like to receive the advice of the Council of Advice. This was already emailed to the head greffier, Mr. Garrick. I believe he will pass it along. It was sent this afternoon at 3 o'clock, so I believe it will be sent shortly on to you. The next question was more from Minister of Finance about the Airbnb, so he will respond to that. The tourist health visitor tax, this was also explained by the Minister of VSA where the current position of it is and where it stands at the moment. We have a question about Turning Point announcing that March was the Gambling Awareness Month. I have requested our legal team to look into it and to see how we can adjust laws or how we can adjust the legislations to see that we can use, funds and those things for the actual ministries, and also to curb and put notices or warnings out there against gambling and what the addictions can cause, similar to cigarette packages saying smoking kills. The cigarette companies pay for it. The same thing with gambling. It is addictive something. Looking at more ways to make that known. So reminding people, a safer way to double your money is fold it in half, put it back in your pocket rather than gambling. So to put those kind of things out there. The Port Health Services, I need some more clarification because I did not know where that was coming from. The investment and diversification policy in 2022. The EDC will be the vehicle to execute our investment and diversification policy. The EDC will be subsidized how? The ministry will only be providing a subsidy for the promotional efforts with EDC. We do have something mentioned in the budget under post 8270, 44301, 832 for 100,000 guilders. When will the interim director for EDC be officially placed? This was finalized in our last call meeting end of last week after the Central Committee meeting. What is the holdup of the appointment of the board members to EDC? Where is the advice from the Corporate Governance Council? Why hasn't the Council of Ministers approved it? The board of the EDC has had my full attention since I came in. It was not fully completed, but now it is being finalized, and by end of next week, we hope to have everyone appointed and in place. What is the status of the daughter companies under the EDC? They are inactive. Focus on agriculture. What about fisheries on the island? The ministry is finalizing an overview of the rules and regulation regarding fisheries on Sint Maarten. As we are aware, there's a lot of uncertainty about what is allowed and what is not allowed. The ministry is also looking into the possibility of reinstating the Fisheries Committee. However, due to the budgetary cuts, we could not proceed with this process. I did meet with St. Kitts minister, it was on Monday morning. We discussed the fishery projects that they're doing over there, also the trainings and the seminars and different things. It did come over from him that we are welcome also to participate with those. It would be at zero cost to anyone that wants to participate in fisheries or learn more about it. The only basic issue would be for us to get these people over to St. Kitts for the day to participate in this. So we are looking, or I am looking at ways possibly to see how maybe from the private side someone can assist with a ferry, or to have these people moved and learn something and further their endeavors in that area. Will these things proposed by the minister, the mooring, happen under slack? Please explain and provide details. Once the full plan and all legalities are fine-tuned, the government does intend to decide which route we will be taking with that and which entity will control the actual project. The MP does not understand the answers provided on SCDF, Sint Maarten Carnival Development Foundation. Based on the subsidy ordinance, the organizers must submit their marketing plan and the audited financial of the previous year. This has not yet been provided to my person or to the cabinet, and due to this, we have not yet paid any subsidy to them. The vendors on the pond fill will not move until there's a better plan for them. You mentioned that your personal opinion is that they should not move. What is the opinion of your colleagues? Do they share the same opinion? Honestly, I have not asked the personal opinions of all of my colleagues. The ones that I have asked are of the same opinion. And my staff and cabinet staff and myself, we are definitely all of the same opinion. What are the plans of the ring road? I believe this should be answered by the Ministry of Romy with the ring road part. Can you please show me the plans regarding the water park and boutique hotel? I don't have them on this laptop. I have them on a memory stick. Unfortunately, it's in my office, so as soon as we finish or tomorrow morning, I will email it to the feed and you will have that as well. I don't have, unfortunately, any nice videos yet of anything flying through, so just pictures so that you are aware. Where do we stand with the Gaming Control Board of the H2 project of the country package? The country package measure H2 regarding the reform of gaming and gambling sector is on target. A request for proposal was approved for the writing of a business plan for Sint Maarten. A legislative lawyer has also been contracted and paid by the TWO to assist the Sint Maarten Gaming Authority Working Group in drafting of the national ordinance, regulations, and national decrees, as well as to make amendments to related ordinances. Every minister to provide an answer for the service level agreement, take their portion of the budget and indicate the SLAs are in conformity of the National Accountability Ordinance. The Department of the ETT, the SLAs are in conformity with the ordinance. These SLAs are A&A accounting for the amount of 378,250 guilders. Ludeco legal services for 120,000 guilders. And Calmera BV, which is doing training and support for the economic modeling and forecasting for 49,000 guilders. MP Ludmila de Weaver, I did not get any questions. MP Christopher Emmanuel, also not any questions that I saw. MP Grisha Heiliger, Martin. Monitoring tool, integral dashboard. Will we be provided with such a tool? Oh, this was asked to the PM. Which SDGs are assigned to our ministry and why? SDG 8 is related to the Ministry of TIAT, which is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. This particular goal is in line with the Ministry of TIAT's mission and vision, where we strive to achieve sustainable economic growth and development. MP Melissa Gums, IATA is against any tax leveled on tourist travelers not related to aviation. Therefore, has the CEO. This question was, I believe, answered already by the Minister of ASR. Call for PGIAE concessions. Has the Minister been involved with the concession plan? This was, I believe, with the article in yesterday's paper. No, I have not been involved with the article mentioned in yesterday's newspaper. As part of the good governance that we just took part in, it was stressed that we have to stop micromanaging and work through the boards that are in place. So having said that, I don't keep track of every single thing that happens on the airport, but anything that does come to my attention, I will run it through the through the board, the holding board, which will relay that to the operating board, which will make sure to relay to the CEO and to the management team and get those answers back for us. However, it came more to the mention of a mini casino bar. As mentioned in my recent publications that we put out, reminding everyone what is allowed, what is not allowed under the licenses. Since I see the word bar, automatically, if it is a bar with casino machines, it will not be allowed because it's not allowed under their articles in their license. And I have not received any requests for any new casino licenses. So, MP Peterson, what is the plan for the tourist levy tax? And do you agree or believe that this should be reinvested into the tourist sector? I do believe, yes, any initiatives, anything that comes up from a ministry, that money should be going back to that ministry so that you can see something productive come out of it. It is something that is not in place at the moment. We are looking at ways to get it into the right departments, into the right ministries when these things are collected, but at the moment it is not. Am I happy with it? No. Can we live with it? We are. So we are still working on that part. Please provide a full list of people working, that is for VSA, that was answered. MP George Pontiflet, marine and yachting business, renting yachts, but have a challenge in paying or wanting to pay to go through the bridge. It was not really a question from what I got, but I have some stuff to add. My opinion and my comment, I fully agree. And that's why I believe to refuse to believe it is a problem of paying, but more a problem of enforcing that payment and the collection of it, which is, again, coming back to similar situations that if a ship does not want to enter the lagoon to save the fees, and you're doing it to drop an anchor out in the bay, when we have the mooring brawl project in place, you will still have to pay either way for being in our waters and making use of that. Supermarket, bar, and restaurant gambling machines on the LB Scott Road, operating within the license. Again, this is part of the publication I put out on April 2nd. We will be going out and enforcing and reminding everyone, first with warnings, second with the next steps after that to curb this behavior. The marketplace renovation, are we going to have the same amount of vendors? And if those that are there now, and will those that are there now be able to stay or be included? Yes, we currently have approximately, from what we counted, 60 plus minus market vendors between the boardwalk, between what is behind the courthouse, between what is between Back Street and Canagita Street. The plans that we have are to incorporate everyone and have space, sufficient space for everyone. And also closed every day so that stuff does not have to be taken out and re-put back every morning. It will have sufficient storage. In Aruba, there is a hondenvergunning to ensure the dogs, animal owners are known. So if anyone gets bitten or a dog is roaming and something goes wrong, we know who it belongs to. There is locally a hondenvergunning something similar in place, but I believe that falls under the Ministry of Justice, not TIAT. I will dive a little further into it still to see what it's all about and to read up on it, and I will provide that to you in writing if that is okay for that part. Animals being imported, do we have a law in place to ensure that they are healthy? Do we get revenue for any animals and or plants? There is a law regulating the import and transit of all small animals into Sint Maarten, which makes it a requirement to demonstrate the good health of these animals, and there are no present health risks to the country. There's no legislation, however, currently regulating the movement of plants. As everyone has heard, agriculture is a big thing for us. We are trying to create that food safety net and to make sure that we have that. So this is something we are looking into to see how we can also have something in place for plants so that we don't spread in unnecessary diseases possibly to future crops that we are planning to grow or, and put that at risk. What is the fee and what is the fee based on? The size, type of animal, etc. Currently, there's no fee associated with the import of small animals. As part of the project to generate additional revenue, the ministry is currently looking and researching this with the intent to make changes to the Landsverordening to implement an import fee for small animals. Are there any court cases against the harbor facilities pending, such as the ZBEC? The port has no current ongoing cases with ZBEC or anyone else. There is a case with ZBEC and a third party, but it's not the port. And there are no material court cases otherwise ongoing with the port at this present time. MP Solange Duncan, I did not see any questions. MP Angelique Rameau, I did not see any questions either. MP Arundel, Hakeem Arundel, how does the minister feel about the budget? My opinion, I don't want to read what I have here, but my opinion is that, like every other minister sitting next to me and been in the room and all of the MPs, of course the budget can be, better for everyone, but we have to face reality that it's not possible this time. My ministry for sure, and me as the minister, I am currently and continuing to look at all possible ways that we can tap into any revenues that we are missing out on, possible revenues that can be charged or collected that we are not collecting so that we start enforcing it. Similar to the small animals, that if you're importing any small animals that we have a fee for it. Same thing with the anchoring and vessels coming in with the mooring balls. MP Rolando Bryson. Does action, investment, and improvement of business license process serve the interests of the people of Sint Maarten? Yes, definitely. That is my only straightforward answer I can give you. Continue to seek public and private partnership. Can we follow up on the process on the project of the lookout point on Colby Hill? And can we realize this project flagpole the same way that's being done with the marketplace? I think you took the words out of my mouth when you asked that question, although I didn't say anything to anyone. But this was one also after the bus project, finding money that I wanted to really work on and see how we can enhance that area, because the flag, honestly, when I do see it up, it really, when I'm driving around the hill from Colby, it makes you feel good. You see it from a distance, it's very, very nice, but it needs a lot of work around it. So that is one that we're working on also, and in the back, in progress. Tourist investment, blah, blah, blah. Can the Minister of TIAT and or the PM get in contact with NRPB? Execute the agency to direct the NRPB to execute, if we can get the writing. This was, I believe, about the 9 million guilder NRPB project. Actually, before you mentioned it, we had a little meeting in the COM with NRPB. It was quite interesting to hear how they were working with Romy and the projects and how the whole thing goes about. Myself and my Chief of Staff, Mr. La Cruz, that's sitting in the Tribune, or the only person in the Tribune, was in a meeting last week, Wednesday, after the Central, Wednesday, after the Central Committee meeting for the budget, with Mr. Connor and his team, to go over what projects were possible, what is not possible, what was in the pipeline not being executed or not followed up on. And this was actually one of them that came about. It was already sent through to the PM, and it should be sent through to me next so that I can review and we can go forward from there. MP Chanel Brownbill, I had no questions. MP William Marlin, I saw no questions. MP Hyacinth Richardson, when will the marketplace commence and when will it be finished completely? The marketplace, from beginning to start of the construction and cleanup and getting it ready, should be between 3 to 4 months at max. We are busy finalizing all the plans. Next week, hopefully, when the Minister of Romy is back, and myself after my trip, I will sit with him and his team and my team to finalize anything pending and to make sure that we have all in line so that as soon as the funds come through and the budget is passed and we have everything, that we can quickly move forward and get it done once and for all, as was mentioned by some of the ministers, because it's taking honestly too long now, a few years, and nothing has been done. Agriculture, we need to see something tangible happen. This was more of a statement. Again, with my meeting with the Minister of St. Kitts, this was also discussed because they are very heavily pushing agriculture there as well, indoors and outdoors. They are also having a lot of the similar problems that we have with the monkeys, you know, invading the crops, invading different things. So they have a lot of solutions that we can possibly also use to better our agricultural ways forward. Sports tourism, dialogue with the Minister of Tourism, definitely. That is one of the plans to also do. And then we go to MP Siddharth Bijlani. Chairman, I don't have any questions posed from you either. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, Mr. Leo Lambrix. I see for clarification, MP Sarah Westcott Williams. MP Westcott, you have the floor.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my thanks to the Minister of TIAT for his responses, and I would like to ask, in connection with his response on the ship registry and the contacts that have been made, if the Minister feels that where he is now with that process, that the money projected to be collected can be legislated or regulated and collected in 2023 is my question. Does the minister subscribe, given the changed socioeconomic circumstances, does the minister subscribe to the current casino policy? In other words, does the minister feel that this is the policy that the ministry should continue working with and on? The Minister, through you, Mr. Chairman, I completely missed your answer regarding Carnival. It probably had to be very, very short because I was writing something else that you said and missed it. So if you can just, if you had given me the answer on Carnival, if you can just repeat it for me, please. And the matter of fisheries, and it also goes for agriculture. Does the ministry have a particular point person for these industries? Someone knowledgeable and kind of pushing the matter. So is it there in the ministry, in a department, a point person or two for the areas of fisheries and agriculture? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Sarah Westcott Williams. The next person I see is MP Richardson. MP Richardson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon once again to everyone. Minister, I asked the question, put in the marketplace. It was two questions in one, and I asked what was the projected amount for the total of the marketplace. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Richardson. The next person is MP Grisha Halliger Martin.
Yes. A pleasant good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to my fellow colleagues, and good afternoon to the Minister and support staff, I see, and those listening and viewing online. Mr. Chairman, I just have one clarification for my one question. The Minister, I noticed that Minister of VSR is also doing some initiatives under SDG 8. He explained some of his projects, but I didn't get that from the Minister of Tourism, exactly what type of initiatives are you undergoing under SDG 8, which is for the public's understanding. It's under 8 is decent work and economic growth. What kind of initiatives are you going to be doing under those SDGs? It's just for my clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Grisha Harliger Martin. I don't see any other clarification. Minister, are you ready to answer them right away, or you need some time?
I think I can answer some. I believe I can answer some, but not all.
Put the mic. So would you need time, or you want to answer some? If you need time, I'll have to adjourn now, because
Some
there's
is,
no other.
yeah. Some is only one really,
So
which is
I
the
would
one
better
that I
adjourn
can-
the meeting for now, till I get the next minister in-house.
If you give, if I
Meeting
can have 2
adjourned?
minutes, 5 minutes, I can have the answers. I mean, it's just one question that I'm a little,
You want to answer one question now?
no, I have one question I don't really have an answer for, so if I can have 5 minutes, and then I can probably answer all.
Okay, adjourn for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, or rather good afternoon and good evening. It's pretty much evening. We were in the clarification round, and Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, Telecommunication, Mr. Leo Lambrix was answering on clarification round. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since MP Westcott is not, oh, she is, okay, good. Let me go with her questions first. So as the clarifications are asked by MP Westcott Williams, does the minister believe that the tax can be legislated in the coming year for the ship registry? Yes, I do believe it can. It takes a lot of hard work to get it done, but I believe it is possible for this year. We are working hard to make it happen. Does the minister agree with the casino policy as given the current socioeconomic circumstances? The casino policy at the moment, with minor possible tweaks possible and pending the finalization of the legislation to reform the sector, is in progress. We also have the gaming authority being finalized hopefully soon, and that should also tackle that subject a little further to make sure anything that needs to change, that we can have that change. Does the minister have a point person for the agriculture and fishery? Yes, we have a designated person, Mr. Butcher, within the ministry, which is pushing these industries. The MP does not understand the answers provided. This was based on the carnival. The organizers normally have to submit a marketing plan and their financials of the previous year. These were not yet submitted to the ministry. Due to this, of course, we cannot pay out any subsidies, so they have not yet been paid out because of that. Let me see. That was that part. MP Hyacinth Richardson. What is the projected amount for the proposal of the marketplace, the full amount for the completion? It's set at 1,000,000 guilders, 1,044,427 guilders. MP Grisha Heiliger Martin. What are the initiatives you are undergoing under the SDG 8? The initiatives that are currently being undertaken under the SDG 8, which aims to promote sustainable economic growth, employment, and decent work for all, were outlined during the presentation to Parliament. Specifically related to the economic growth, several initiatives were mentioned, including the Small and Medium Entrepreneurship Development Program, the replication of the Farmers Market in Phillipsburg, the SME Entrepreneurship Development Program in partnership with A&A Accounting, the promotion of agriculture through educational programs and street fairs, and the development of favorable investment climate through the issuance of subsidies to the EDC for investment promotion and diversification activities. Also, the implementation of the red carpet policy for investors. It is important to note that these are initiatives also prioritized by the ministry's diversification efforts towards orange, blue, and green economy initiatives, such as marine and yachting, renewable energy, and film and tourism, amongst others. I think those were the clarifications asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Leo Lambrix. The next minister is Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs. We are awaiting her arrival. We might be a little bit early, but we can break for supper till 6:30. So we adjourn the meeting till 6:30. Meeting adjourned.